Thank you for joining the webinar and welcome back. This is part 2 in this series on cloud networking solution cases. The slides and videos from part 1 are already available on our website, and the slides in this webinar will be available at the end to reference and share. So hi everybody, I'm Sam Mitchell. Let's start off with a little bit about who I am and what I do at Cohesive. So I provide technical leadership on Cohesive's products and solution sets. I lead the technical elements of Cohesive sales cycle, and I design solutions for our customers' requirements. You can usually find me giving presentations or demos, participating at conferences, running proof of values, responding to RFPs, and getting my hands dirty in technical matters. And again, some behind the scenes people that you should know about are Ryan and Chris, and if you work with CFT on a regular basis, you'll deal with these guys or myself. So here's what we'll go over this week and what to expect in the next webinar. We'll quickly recap on our cloud networking story and the concepts of the security lattice and the layers of security ownership. Next, we'll drill down into specific solutions with hybrid clouds, detailing cloud bursting, cloud AD, and cluster databases in the cloud. Finally, I'll talk a little bit about federation within AWS regions and cloud vendor to cloud vendor federation. And there'll be about 15 minutes for questions and answers. So feel free to ask questions as we go if you like, and we'll try our best to collect them and answer them at the end. So as a quick reminder, the next webinar is on May 22nd with some customer stories of life in the cloud. Once again, part 1 slides and videos are already on our website. And these slides will be uploaded shortly after the webinar for you to reference and share. Also look out for Series 2 webinars in a month or so, with more on VNS Cubed, working with different types of cloud environments. So a little recap on why we're talking about software-defined networking in cloud. We're a company born in the cloud. Since 2006, we've been helping our customers use cloud computing. And that whole time, we've been focused on addressing issues of security, control, and complexity encountered when using infrastructure as a service. We're a cloud vendor and standards neutral, and we work with all the leading cloud and virtualization technologies. We created VNS Cubed, which is our software-defined networking products, in 2008. And we have more software-defined overlay networking customers than all of the competition combined. Of course, it wasn't always called software-defined networking back then. VNS Cubed is part of a suite of products from Cohesive that provide a comprehensive toolkit for application migration, deployment, and control. And we're also members of the Open Data Center Alliance and the Open Networking Foundation. So to recap, we noticed this divide, and it's denoted here by the red line in the middle. And this is the limits of access control and visibility. Below the divide at layer 2, where vendors like VMware with Nicira, they focus on, and above layer 3 and above, which is where the application owners and users layers lie. Up in layer 3 are the business applications, which are not primarily the focus of the cloud providers. So let's focus on solutions that bridge the gaps in layer security and integrate both cloud provider and application layer solutions. So we noticed that the software-defined networking market is split into 2 main segments. So if we look at the top of the slide first, you can see the application-controlled side of software-defined networking, and these are vendors such as ourselves, VNS Cubed, and Citrix with their Cloud Bridge or Cisco's Cloud Service Router. And these are application-controlled products, usually sitting at the application layer on top of the OS in the app stack and in the cloud instance. And these are above the perimeter of access control and visibility for the user. Below that, we see the second market segment, which is provider-controlled software-defined networking, with vendors such as VMware with Nicira, an Open vSwitch, or even a Cisco Nexus 1000V. And other big vendors are playing in this area as well, such as Brocade, Cisco, Juniper, and Alcatel-Lucent. These are provider-controlled software-defined networking solutions, and these usually sit on the physical layer in the hardware or in the virtual layer within the hypervisor. Again, important to note that these are below the perimeter of access control and visibility. So here's our diagram from the last time. We previewed this in our first webinar, and it's our conceptual cloud network. This diagram has examples of IPsec connections, encryption, overlay network across multiple clouds, and federation. And these federated resources come together to create one global group of resource. So let's walk through security and control on each layer here. So just a quick recap of the topology, if you look to the top of the slide, you can see that we've consumed servers from 2 AWS regions. And in fact, the EC2 region in the east is just plain old EC2. And in the AWS region in the west, it's a VPC. And then we've consumed some cloud servers from IBM's data center in Germany from the Smart Cloud Enterprise solution. And we've grouped these resources together as one logical group of compute, creating this overlay network, pushing all of the servers onto one flat 172 network. And in each cloud region or vendor, we've placed a Venus Cube manager, which has been connected to 2 remote offices. One is a Chicago general office, and the other is a data center in London. You can see there's different types of firewalls in each. In the remote office in Chicago, it's a lighter Cisco ASA. And in the data center in London, it's a much heavier edge firewall device. Both these devices are connected to the overlay network, and in turn can talk to all of the devices inside of the overlay network, irrespective of which network or which cloud they're actually sitting in. So starting from the bottom up, both Chicago and London remote locations have security provided by the firewalls and edge devices. And again, the one in Chicago is slightly lighter as it's an office location rather than a data center. So the control here is already with the cloud user, as the devices are owned and managed by the cloud user. Next, you'll notice the connections. Security here is provided by industry standard things such as IPsec. So encryption for all data in motion goes from the remote locations and into the cloud. Control in this instance is definite, as you can only provide access to certain endpoints. Each endpoint is separate for individual customer or partner connections. And finally, looking at the top layer, you'll notice that this is the cloud layer where your VMs sit. Security here is provided by the cloud vendors in each point of presence, with features such as security groups and hypervisor firewalling. In addition, the VNS cubed overlay network features encrypt all the data in motion between the cloud servers by using SSL. Control here is provided by using VNS Cube's peering features and IPsec VPN failover features. So if you remember from webinar 1 in the series, VNS Cubed appliances are portable, and its managed topology is also portable. So geographic data center distribution used here can easily be moved to a different point of presence if the user wants, and this also prevents vendor lock-in. So let's look at how this fits within the security lattice I talked about in webinar 1. So this lattice represents the layers of control and access, and you combine user with provider features to create the security lattice. If you look in the center of the lattice, you'll see where VNS Cube sits. It's customer controlled, and it has integration into the cloud provider security features, essentially providing some very clever middleware. Not sure about that. Now let's look at some VNS Cube solutions cases in more detail and in a hybrid cloud type of scenario. So what we mean by hybrid cloud is a group of resource in one physical location in this instance, and then another group of resource in a public cloud of some sort. And you can see that we are grouping this resource together as one logical pool by using VNS Cubed. So we've got 3 scenarios here, and we're going to go through each one. So the first is cloud bursting, and many organizations often need extra capacity for their applications at critical times, but don't want to or need to invest in extra tin for the data center. And these can be things like Olympics or various occasions that require more capacity for their general data center or more compute capacity. So public cloud is a good place to burst into to do this, because you can effectively rent what you need at the time that you need. The concerns here is that you can't always attest to the regulatory compliance within public cloud. It's inherently multi-tenant. So by using a secure overlay network, from VNS Cubed, we can create a secure link into public cloud, group those servers as part of the next available IPs in the private data center, and make them look like it's essentially part of the same data center. The same can be done for a cloud Active Directory. If you look here, the private data center has a domain controller, and many organizations want to use public cloud and add their Windows servers into the same domain controller. And a secure way of doing this is, of course, to create a trust. However, sometimes trusts have issues in the cloud because you need to be sometimes in the same IP subnet. Again, creating an overlay network allows you to extend your existing IP subnet into public cloud and create that trust securely. Another common scenario that we face is a database in the cloud. The benefit here is to use public cloud for backup and replication. And it's scalable, so you can increase as your data grows. Again, the concerns with customers is often with data in motion and encryption, data in motion not being encrypted. So the solution here is to extend the LAN to the cloud, so it makes it easier to transfer things. And in fact, you can run clusters then as well if you want, because they're on the same physical LAN or the same IP subnet. And then you can burst and replicate your data into public cloud as and when you need it, scaling up and scaling down depending on your data size requirements. So another common scenario is to federate different clouds together. And in fact, in this scenario, it's two different regions within AWS. And if you look at AWS as a cloud vendor, they have individual regions which are effectively individual clouds. And there's no LAN connectivity, and if you want to talk from one region to the other, you're going across the WAN, and you're going out through the great unwatched internet, so to speak. So concerns are always that regions are independent, and it's very difficult to group them all as one. Again, you can use an overlay network from VNS Cubed, which can bridge all of the servers in every region into one fat, and fast network. The same can be said for individual vendor. You can consume some virtual machines from vendor 1 and from vendor 2. You can create one global group of resource by using an overlay network to do that. And if such times that you want to move to another vendor, you can add that in, or you can remove one vendor out. IP addresses within VNS Cubed are transferable, and you can move your topology around. Again, this eliminates vendor lock-in. So as a teaser for next week's customer use case webinar, which is around life in the cloud, we've got an example of a HPC cloud bursting solution that we've built for a large mutual fund. And so they have a big, large on-premise grid, which they use to do their end-of-day processing. Sometimes they may have had a very good financial day, I guess, and they need some extra processing power out in the cloud. They don't want to consume public cloud without it being secured, and they want to extend their existing grid. We built a solution that makes a logical extension to their existing grid and secures all data in motion back and forth. We'll talk about this next week in more detail. So make sure to come out next week for the last of the webinar in the series on how our customers have been using VNS Cube to solve real-life problems and specific customer use cases. Also make sure to read our white papers. Both of them are on our website at the moment. And if you have any questions or you want to talk through the use cases with us, please don't hesitate to contact us in the US or the UK. Remember, slides and videos will be available on our website after each webinar. Thank you again for your time, and I welcome any questions or comments.